board on this computer, so we are now recording. Welcome to be here with me today, and I will take you through the webinar of how much airtime do you give your inner critic. We will be looking at our inner dialogue and talking also how we can incorporate intuition into our inner dialogue. But first, before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm living on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and as spiritual caretakers of the land for over 60,000 years. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I also pay the respect to all my teachers and the lineage of my ancestors, the people who have come before me. Thank you. I will also put everyone onto mute now so that we have a clear audio on the recording. Let me introduce myself. I'm sharing my screen now. Yes, it is learning one thing after the other. And also, I'm putting my microphone on. Now, we are set. I'm Doris Mounsey, and I'm a kinesiologist, through yoga teacher, and I have learned a few other things. So, coming to my story, I'm always wanted to know more. I'm a seeker. And here I like to use the analogy of a plant pot. So my parents planted me in a nice little small pot. And with lots of love and care, I grew and then got a little bit root bound. So I wanted to know more. And then I learned and I moved to Australia. And I was still looking for spiritual knowledge. And that brought me to yoga. And then there came the next pot size up was kinesiology, learning about energy medicine and helping people with it, stepping up into a therapist role. And then about 2 years ago, I came across this intuitive intelligence. And the knowledge of intuitive intelligence the knowledge of intuitive intelligence then sort of got me out. And that's when I use analogy, I was planted then into the garden. And my roots sort of found their foundations. It felt like I have found me and I have found the tools which I can support myself now to grow into foundations, to grow into my knowledge and to have these tools available. And during lockdown this year in July, when I didn't travel to Europe, I reviewed my workshops and I thought I really would like to teach this, integrate this intuitive intelligence into my teachings. And then looking around, the course came up to teach intuitive intelligence professionally. So I enrolled in July into that, studied. I'm in the last 2 weeks now of this course, and I will teach the foundations in October. So just I have to share my passion. And this new building this intelligent muscle, this intuition, and that gives me another really good tool to look after myself and also to look after my heart. And as most of you know me, I love things around the heart. And there is also heart intelligence, and we will take you through this in this webinar. So as you see, I have my notes here. Let's go. So the webinar is recorded, and you will get an email where you have access to all the recording and an email to my ebook called How to Train Your Inner Critic. And you will also receive all the information for the 10-week course I'm running in October. But also, I need to do a masterclass first. So last week I was informed as my last assessment, I have to teach a lecture from the course content, record it, teach it with a live audience, and then I'm finished with my training. So when that is finished, everything will be on the website, and you will get an invitation to this masterclass as well. So let's get started. Why do I want to keep an eye on my internal dialogue? Why I would like to work with this inner critic? And why do I want to review how much airtime do I give it? It is around fear for me. And it's the state when this fear takes over, or when worrying becomes out of control, or I'm in an anxious state. I'm just feeling this heaviness around me. That's awareness, and then I want to switch my internal dialogue to more positive thoughts, allowing in more joy, being more productive, and getting back into my flow. So let's give you a moment to look at how loud your inner critic is. Reflect on that. Reflect how you behave when you are at the edge of your comfort zone. Let's think how we talk when we are, what voice we are using when we talk to ourselves. Are we nice? Are we talking about the not good enough, not something enough? Which thoughts do we have going around in circles when we are worrying or when we are anxious? Yes, and we all have them, and we all will come in and out of this state. And it's about having the tools to quicker come out of that state. So with the knowledge and the tools, we have a choice. We become awareness. We build the awareness around these inner unhelpful thoughts or thought patterns or belief systems, whatever our internal dialogue will bring up. And these tools allow us to become boss of the internal dialogue. And we can switch it. And also we can try out different tools. And we find out what tools work for us, how we can switch from the non-productive state into the productive state. And when we do that, when we invite new thoughts and new thought patterns into our thinking, we create new neural pathways. So that's when I get excited about building these neural pathways. And I'm using the analogy here. When we start with new thoughts, we are on the footpath and we are sort of walking pace. Slowly starting with these new thoughts. And then when we go on the footpath longer, the neural pathways in the brain join, they come together, building a road. And it's easier. We can go quicker. We can use a car down the road. And then by practicing that, we build an autobahn in our brain. And we build this freeway where we quick can get back to our productive, helpful thoughts, where we are aligned with ourselves, where we are practical, where we use our internal dialogue to our best advantage. So that is how this webinar will flow. We look at how to take charge of the internal dialogue. We look into the inner critic and how we recognize this pattern, how we catch ourselves, and how we become more productive. And the tools I'm used along the journey is my yoga, it is my heart connection, and it's also around meditation, visualization, and using the quick tool of heart congruence. And also while I'm studying this intuitive intelligence over the last 2 years, I have introduced a practice of discipline of 10 minutes or more of meditation and stillness before I get up. And what I like about discipline is that we can build it. We can put the parts in which really help us to meditate, which bring us to this blissful brainwave state. But before we go there, I would like to look at the definition of our internal dialogue. And here I quote, "The internal dialogue is a person's inner voice which provides a running monologue of thoughts while they are conscious and is tied to a person's sense of self. Other words for it is our self-talk or our inner speech." So now that we have a base of what we are talking about, it is this inner voice when we are conscious. It stops when we are asleep. When we are deep enough, it just goes away. And it's sort of training our consciousness to be nicer, to be more helpful, and to be also higher vibrating if we look at it from an energetic side. Maybe it's a good time to have a sip of water. Yeah, that is better. Now, let's look at the function of this internal dialogue. And when it's working, when we are in flow, we are good at planning, problem solving. We have the ability to self-reflect. So we have our mental capacities here. We have our self-image. We can think critically and we can evaluate emotions. So we are, when this dialogue is functioning well, we are practical, productive, centered, and aligned. And we get things done and we feel good in ourselves. So we also talk about this as our intelligences. And we best when it's flowing and the internal dialogue is lined up, then these intelligences are integrated. We use them in the best way. So we have our mental intelligence, our thinking capacity. We have emotional intelligence. We can evaluate how we feel. And we can build this intelligence like we can build a muscle. So about 25 years ago, it came into society, into mainstream, the knowledge of an emotional intelligence. And we started tools of mindfulness and reflective techniques to build our emotional muscle. And then about 15 years ago, or even earlier, when I think about my heart teacher, Robie introduced me to heart wisdom, or what I call here heart intelligence, that we can tune into our heart and listen to our heart wisdom. And 2 years ago, I came across intuitive intelligence. And that is also only possible when we are connected to the heart. And then we can listen to our intuition. Now let's look at that from a different angle. I would like to introduce the analogy of a radio in our head, a radio with different stations, or the analogy of the bandwidth of our different intelligence. So the intelligence has a bandwidth like the FM radio, emotional is maybe like AM, or whatever they are. So there are different frequencies. And our body is like a radio receiver and like a radio sender. Because also we have an electromagnetic field. And our heart has an electromagnetic field which can be measured. And the Heart Math Institute is doing amazing work there. And it can be measured for the next, or out of the body, around 2 to 3 meters. So that is documented, and that's how the current instruments, how far they can measure it out. So that's where we are. Now, going deeper with this analogy, I would like to share the next slide with you. And this gets us to the brainwave states. So the brainwave states are frequencies. And I will be talking about these 4 now. Here we have a beta brainwave state, and that is sort of correlated with our mental and emotional intelligence. So that is when we are in a thinking mode and when we are busy. Beta has 2 modes. There is a higher beta, and sometimes we are in higher beta when we are in fight flight, or when the inner critic is very loud. And when we are in this emotional state where we have this associated with our frontal brain, with our logic. And then there's a lower beta brainwave state where we have full mental capacity, where we are busy and where we are evaluating emotions. So that's where I put these intelligences. And then there is the alpha brainwave. And I came across the alpha brainwave state in a training I did 15 years ago called the Silver Method. And that trained us to slow down, to get the heart and the brain into that brainwave state of the slower alpha brainwaves. So that means we are in a light state of meditation. And it's that comfortable. Oops, admit. It is Robie trying to come in, and I hope. Let me have a look quickly. See how that goes. Good. A little bit of technical thing. Let's go back. So alpha brainwave state, heart intelligence. That is the state when we are in calm and when we find this stillness in our heart. when we come home to ourselves. And then there is the theta brainwave state. That's when we are in deep meditation. And that is a deeper feeling state, and where we sort of can think in. And that's when we connect to also intuition, to the higher intuition. So there are different grades of intuition, but that is also more for the course or the master class. So for here, we just recognize when we are in this deep meditative state, we can connect. And intuition is the connection to something higher. It also is related to a state of praying. It's communication with the higher self, with the infinite, or all there is, or God. So it is has no religious teaching underneath it. It is what you like to call it. And writing, admit. I'm admitting, and good. Yes, so it is just the science of intuition, and you decide what higher self and what you would like to call whatever is higher, what you believe in. So that's, and another scientific teaching about this theta brainwave state you can find with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So he has done also lots of research into these brainwave states. So there is more information there. And the bottom one, the delta brainwave state, that is when we are in deep sleep. So these are like the frequency bands and the different radio bandwidths in our internal field. So that is the science available to us at the moment. So now let's go back to our internal dialogue. I need to, can I? Yes. So inner critic or heart voice, we have the choice here. So when we are in a worry, fear, or not good enough state, we can switch the dial. We can switch the channel, become more productive, listen to other thoughts, more motivated, more problem solving, or reflective, supportive, loving, and caring. So let's look at the inner critic first and how you can detect when you are in this inner critic mode. So our thoughts are around fear. Inner critic loves fear. It's sort of our mental thought patterns go around. They want to control. And the inner critic is not happy when you want to leave your comfort zone. Coming back to my bigger pot. So whenever I want to grow more or do something like teaching, my inner critic tells me that maybe not so safe. So that's why how this webinar came together is about me saying, okay, no, we're stepping up, we're doing that. It is safe to have a webinar and to teach a course. So that is the staying safe part. Also, our inner critic doesn't like change. So at the moment, there is lots of change in our environment worldwide. So that's why there is a bit of unease there. And you may want to go and send lots of thoughts there. The other thing is, it comes on when with a feeling of daunting, when we are afraid of something new. Then it also wants us to keep safe. Another angle are the next 3 points there. And this is the not good, not clever, not pretty, not something enough. this is self-critical talking or self-sabotaging talking. And this is also the FOMO aspect from social media that comes in there, and with awareness, we can choose there and say, okay, what do we want? How can we use social media productively and helping us and stay connected without buying into all the critical stuff in getting sucked down into that mode. And the bottom bit, the bottom three, is about society and how we are brought up in these thought patterns around pleasing others, what roles we had in our family, when we needed to be the good girls, or when we had to fulfill expectations of others, of groups, of schools, of our environment and society, and thinking, what do they think before we follow our own path. Now, there is another internal dialogue I would like to go look at here. It is more related to our emotional intelligence. So the inner critic is more mental, and this goes more into emotions around the ego voice. I'm different. Or when we have judgmental thoughts about others, they are also not helpful. That's not a helpful internal dialogue. Or when we compare ourselves to others. Other things are reacting with a tantrum when we feel being backed into a corner. How do we express these unexpressed emotions? What is underneath that? Is it fear, anger, overwhelm? Evaluating these emotions and not coming to the tantrum. And here I would like to share something I have started maybe in the beginning when I learned about these things with my family. I just exploded. And I used the analogy there with them like the avalanche, or you can think of a volcano. And I just had a little bit of a tantrum. And now I can recognize when this tantrum is coming up. And this is Robie trying, and I'm trying to admit, sorry. Maybe it worked. Yes. Welcome, Robie. And I will come back to the normal, to our slide. So, Robie, you will have everything recorded and you are joining us here now. And we're currently talking about emotional intelligence and our ego voice. So back up to my sharing. And so now when this overwhelm builds, I'm telling my family, I'm getting to the point of an avalanche. The snow is building. And so I asked them for more time, more understanding, so that the last snowflake, when it falls, doesn't cause the avalanche and the tantrum there. Another thing on an emotional level is we can create a drama in our life so that we don't have to face fears or overwhelm, or we can buy into someone else's drama and their story to keep us distracted from our own journey. So that is another technique this inner dialogue has to keep us stuck. Now, we come to our heart voice. And our heart voice is more about the feeling state. It is the heart's frequency that gets us into that feeling state, into the alpha brainwave state. And our heart communicates with feelings and knowing. And when we are listening and tuned into our heart voice radio, I feel more aligned with myself. I feel like I'm with me, I'm in me. I know what I want and I know what is right for me, that I'm on the right path forward. And also you, I think, know exactly that feeling. When your heart knows that is right for you. But also your heart knows what is not right for you. And here we build our heart intelligence, that we listen to that voice inside and say, and have the courage, build the courage to communicate, that is not right for me. That doesn't feel 100%. Maybe we need to do more research. Maybe I need a different angle on it. Or a puzzle piece is missing before I can make the decision. So that is building our heart intelligence, listening to our inner knowing and inner wisdom. And that is the basis. There is no intuition without heart intelligence. So we have to build that muscle first before we have the stamina and the ability to listen to our deep intuition. And intuition always comes through the heart. So the higher intuition. We have primary gut feeling, that's also intuition, but that's also then for later in the course. We will talk about that. But your higher intuition, you're aligning with higher dialogue and the higher self. That only comes in with the heart. And that only comes into your heart space. Maybe have also a sip of water. Good. And now let's look at how we are at that slide. How we can tune into our heart voice. So our heart voice is also the alpha brainwave state. So we're getting from the busy, productive mind, or not so productive mind, brainwave state, the busy dialogue into the alpha, more calmer dialogue. We can do that through breathing. We can do it through physical touch. When we touch, when we have our hand over our heart space, we feel the touch. And we are signaling our body that we are safe. So that is the physical touch of the hand brings us back down, brings us into that space. We feel into the heart space. We find the silence there and the calm feeling of stillness. And in that space, we can listen with kindness and patience and curiosity to that state. And this heart space also, I like how Megan Watterson calls it, the cathedral of the heart. It is our own inner sacred place. And by building our heart intelligence, we make this space more accessible. We recognize how important it is to take the time out and come to your heart space. Come in there where we hear the inner wisdom, where we connect to our heart. Another practice is heart congruence. And heart congruence is the feeling, the touching, placing the hand over the heart space and going in to the heart with touch. It was developed by Ricky Jane Adams, And it's a more spiritual and more heartfelt physical practice variant of the heart coherence practice developed by the Heart Math Institute. So Heart Math doesn't touch the body because it's more more corporate oriented and more for the American market, where you don't place a hand on a chest, so more safer. We are fine to place our hand over the heart and go into heart congruence. And now, coming back to the inner critic, how can we work with our inner critic? How can we calm it? And this is my next slide. And I know I have a typo in the title, so forgive me about that. And I would like to bring your attention to the puppy. So this busy inner dialogue, this inner critic, I compare with a puppy mind. And sometimes it's also called monkey mind or busy mind. It is that inner dialogue which we would like to train, to calm, so that we can get into the heart space. So this puppy, this dialogue up here needs to learn to sit, to listen, and sometimes to drop and give us space for an hour or so. So that's where we are going here. And this puppy, look at him, it's busy, it's there, it's active, and it's there to protect us. It's thinking, it's doing its job really, really well. So it's acknowledging about that, thanking it, that it wants to keep us safe, but also being clear now that we are the boss, that we are in charge. And we know now that we want to grow. We are ready to embark on something new. And we are also taking care of ourselves. For the new project, we will be responsible. We take care, and we will listen to our heart. And our heart knows. So we prepare ourselves and the puppy to go towards the heart voice dialogue, to our heart's intelligence. So, how do we train this inner critic? That's also the title of the ebook I have written, and in the email I will send you that, and it has most of this information in it. So let's go and see how we can train this inner critic. It's puppy mind, it's monkey mind, it's busy mind. It's the mind, the dialogue that demands our full attention. And training this dialogue, that we also need quiet time to come to this alpha brainwave state, to come into our heart. That is important, and we need this stillness. We need the heart voice, we need the inner wisdom. So we have the choice here to dial in, to tune in, and to get back to that. Now, I like to take you through the training steps, the steps which have worked for me so that I can stay more connected to my heart intelligence and my intuitive intelligence, and work through fear then and work more productively. So let's come to the first training step. The first training step for this busy mind, for this puppy mind, is that we need to acknowledge it, that we have heard it, that it is there. Because otherwise it will jump up on you and demand attention. So acknowledge that you have heard it. And then we give it a clear time frame for how long we want quiet time. It can be 10 minutes if you want to go into a visualization or meditation, or it can be an hour if we go into a circle or a yoga class, or it can be 8 hours. We can say, you sit, drop, be quiet, I need a good night's sleep. And that is sort of the voice I also use for my puppy. I use the same voice which I would use for something cute like that, or I would use for a toddler. I have a firm voice, and I mean business in a very kind way. So this puppy, this busy mind needs to drop when I need to get a good night's sleep and a healthy night of sleep. That brings us to step 2. Step 2 is the time. I'm back. And you can play again, because we need our active, productive dialogue. So in the morning, it can come back. After I have done my meditation and relaxation, I allow it back in. And I really confirm to that busy mind, yes, you are important too. Yes, I need my mental intelligence. I need my emotional intelligence. And I need it well integrated. So my mental dialogue is important. So that is the next step. And then my busy mind is quite happy then to give me space. And now if I get into a routine, it just drops down immediately. It got a bit of practice. That brings me to step 3. And it is remembering to coming back to our choice of internal dialogue, of what we want to use it for, and to create the balance between the mental dialogue and the heart dialogue, and connecting back to this heart voice, this inner wisdom and our intuition. And the more time we spend in there, the more flow we have in our life, the more alignment and joy comes in. And we start also trusting the wisdom of our heart. And we're building our heart intelligence muscle. And then we invite the intuitive muscle in. We start listening to our intuition. We know it's there, we can access it. And it gives us tools and practices to get quicker over our fear and our inner critic. So we have choice. We can go to this dial and say, okay, coming back, more productive. Yes, and that brings me to the course. Yes, that is my new edge. And that's what I'm passionate about, sharing this knowledge of intuitive intelligence with an audience, bringing it out, because it has given me such unlimited foundations. I'm in the earth now. My pot can spread out the roots. There is no boundaries how far I can grow. And I would like to share these tools with a wider audience, with you. And this is also what I studied. And the course will go through the foundation teachings of the Institute of Intelligence. And it covers the whole complete curriculum, so that everyone who is doing that course, if you wish, you can enroll in all the courses of the Institute. So that path is open. It's just there as knowledge. It is your decision. So all I really like to do in that course is give you the knowledge of intuitive intelligence, how we can work with it, how we techniques like the heart congruence or a different variation, how we can deal quicker with fear. So this is the contents there. And I haven't put everything on a website yet because I have to pass this last masterclass. So early this week, I got informed that I have to teach an audience, an active online audience, one lesson of the curriculum. And I will send you an invitation for that also in the email. And this will be in around 2 weeks' time. And when I pass this masterclass, when that gets reviewed by Ricky, then I can make my website alive with all the details and opening the enrollment for the course. And let me share what is included now. So we start on the 15th of October, and the 10 weeks bring us exactly to 1 week before Christmas. And it is a weekly course, and there is one lecture similar to this. And then there is another session where we go through the practice and have time for question and answers. And every session is recorded and will be on the Thinkific platform, and you have lifelong access to that. And the lessons are 8 lessons, 8 teaching lessons. And within the 10 weeks, then we have 2 weeks where we integrate. Excuse me for a moment. Oh, have a sip of water too. So much talking. Yes, so it is 8 weeks of teaching, but then also there are these 2 weeks where we can integrate, where we can catch up and where we can review and go deeper into different aspects of the content. Or I listen to your requests. We can add a special aspect, maybe going deeper into brainwave and brain integration, because that's something I really like from kinesiology aspects. Yes, and the other thing which is included in the course is the book Spiritually Fierce by Dr. Ricky Jane Adams. And that book contains the whole course and the practices of the course. So you get 2 ways. You get it in printing, you get my teaching, you get my slides, and you have Ricky's book, and you get a free copy of that. And after my masterclass, everything will be on the website. And also I'm still working out payment plans, but the fee for the course is, for the 10 weeks, is around $780. So yes, it's also my growing and my learning and sharing the beautiful knowledge with you and growing into online teaching. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And now we have a few more minutes left. I'm here to answer questions. And then at the end, I would like to take you through a short heart congruence session. And now I will ask you to unmute yourself. So if you have any questions, please unmute yourself. I will stop sharing. The last, hang on, before I have one more slide. I would like to say a big thank you to you, and let this journey begin. Thank you. So let's dive into the questions.
I have one.
Yes, yes.
Is it going to be an evening course, Doris, or is it going to be through the day?
The lecture will be at 9:30 on a Thursday morning.
Okay.
And then the practice is, I think, more evening or afternoon session.
Thank you.
I'm in the process now, that putting everything together. Mafalda. Thank you very much for the lovely comment in the chat box. Let me check the messages. Good. There are no questions in the messages. Are there any other questions? Any questions to the contents which I just went through? No? Good. Thank you, Tracy. Now, let's take the last few minutes and go into heart congruence. I will mute you again so that we have quiet. Now I invite you to come to your seat. Find your seat. Connect to your sit bones. Feel your feet on the ground. And we're connecting to our breath now. Feeling the breath coming into your tummy and flowing out. Finding your own breath rhythm. Bringing your awareness to the base of your spine. And from here, let the awareness flow up to your lower back, middle back. Come to your shoulders. Let your shoulders sink. Rest. Align your neck, tucking your chin slightly in, lifting your crown to the ceiling. Bringing your spine into the perfect alignment for your body. And now I invite you to place the palm of your hand over your heart area. Breathing into the heart space. Feeling the connection between the palm of your hand and the heart. Taking a few breaths into that space, settling in, connecting. And now I invite you to think about a word. The options are gratitude, compassion, freedom, flow, or maybe divine love, whatever is your word for today. And now bring this word into your heart space. connecting to feeling, sense this word. I will be using gratitude here. Feeling, connecting to the feeling state of gratitude. How does gratitude feel in my heart? And then with the next breath, without effort, let this feeling of gratitude extend, flow down your trunk, your hips, down your legs, knees, ankles, and toes. Let this feeling of gratitude expand effortlessly into your shoulders, your arms, your fingers. Flow through your neck, expand to your head. And with the next breath, effortlessly, let it expand through your skin. Feel the outside. Fill your whole energy field with a beautiful feeling of gratitude. Now we will reside in that feeling space for another minute. Bringing the focus back to the feeling. And slowly, when you are ready, connecting back to your breath, deepening your breath, bringing your senses back into your body. Letting your hand drop back into your lap. And when you are ready, coming back and opening your eyes. Coming back into your chair, into our group. And I would like to say thank you for your beautiful energy, for spending an hour with me, and for your interest in learning more, for your interest in working with your internal dialogue, and how you can use tools to make it better, to make it more practical for you. Thank you for being here. And your last moment, if you have any questions, I will stop the recording now.